for those of you who aren't able to watch today. So I shall just let her press the start record button. Okay, a big warm welcome to this this afternoon's Being a Music Student webinar. So my name's Chris. I work here at the University of Chichester in the recruitment and outreach team. And this is one of the nice parts of my job that I get to do, is talking to students and talking with current students about the wonderful kind of things they get up to on their courses. This afternoon's webinar should be about 30 minutes. We will answer questions from all aspects of student life, everything from kind of those pre-uni days right the way through to what they get up to on their current course. We will also at the end share some relevant contact details, and that will include social media, chat platforms, and also those all important emails should you want to ask any questions. We won't cover anything too course specific in terms of modules and syllabuses, but if should you have any questions that come to you about those sorts of things, then please do feel free to contact us, like I say, via any of the platforms at the end. So I'm going to quickly get our lovely student to introduce himself this afternoon so that you know who we've got. So Brandon, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Brandon Semi and I'm currently a fourth year on the vocal performance course.
Thanks, Brandon, and we shall hear from you again in a couple of minutes. So first things first, for those of you watching, hopefully you can see the title of your course that you're applying for up there on our quite long list for our conservatoire subjects. But you should be able to see your course there. There are some different crossovers, and there have been other webinars that have covered some of the musical theatre crossover courses as well. So if you are doing some of those, there are some different webinars you can listen to alongside those as well. So we'll get started with the questions, and we'll get Brandon giving some of the details of his course and his experience here at the University of Chichester. So Brandon, with the 3 questions on the screen, I'm going to let you slowly work your way through them. So this is a bit about what did you get up to when you first researched? I appreciate you said you're a fourth year, but I'm sure you can probably remember some of the feelings, some of the thoughts, and some of the things that you did. So I'll hand over to you to answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main steps I really took before joining any university was just to look into what I really wanted to do. And when I was studying back in college in sixth form, I was doing both music, I was doing catering, hospitality. So I was just basking in everything I did and was trying to figure out what I enjoyed more. And music just really spoke to me a lot more. And it was just one of those things that really made me just feel a lot more comfortable to kind of pursue in the long run as well, because it was something that made me really happy. The main feeling I had about going to university, in all honesty, I really didn't want to go because I knew everyone else around me was going, and I instantly had that sort of feeling of I'm gonna fall with the crowd if I went to uni with them, etc., etc. But then the question hit of what am I gonna do with my life if I didn't go? And I think when I started looking around at universities, I started having that more independent feeling, and I just felt a lot more motivated to go with it, really. And one of the best things I can really say when you want to decide on a university is you're going to be there for at least 3 years. You want to pick somewhere where you can see yourself being. I'd say give yourself a 2-2-2 rule. How would you feel in 2 weeks? How would you feel in 2 months? And when you're there in 2 years' time, how are you going to feel then? And if they check all the boxes, it's the best place for you.
Thanks, Brandon. That's really cool. That leads us nicely on to my next slide, actually, which is some of the top tips that we recommend. Some of them will be things that you've probably already done. Some of them will be things that you're doing at the moment, and some of them are things that we recommend. So hopefully by now, most people have visited an open day and visited the university that they're choosing, hopefully here at the University of Chichester. It may be that you've been to the open days, and I would say if you haven't, you've still got a chance to visit. There will be summer ones that we will be running, so they are predominantly open to students who are at the point of making their decisions and starting their research, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't welcome you with open arms to come and visit the campus again on a summer open day. We always get lots of people who are kind of doing that final check-in before they start in September. There is still plenty of opportunity to come on campus tours, so our lovely team of student ambassadors deliver those regularly every single week. So if you want to book yourself onto one of those, you can check those out on our website. And there are still things happening such as taster sessions. You probably have received emails from us, and some of them may be online bits and pieces as well. One thing I would say is visit the local area. That links into Brandon's comment about the kind of 2-2-2 rule. do look at the local area, do think, oh, can I see myself living here? Can I see myself staying here a long time? And some people stay after they finish their course, so it might be somewhere that you then eventually settle down. So do just look around that local area, that everything there is what you want for you whilst you're at university. If you are indeed commuting, and that's not out of the question, we do get a lot of students who decide to live at home or live in their current house and commute in on the days of their course. Do just make sure that you do a bit of a test run. It will help with stress. It will help with those, kind of alleviate some of those worries about hitting traffic, all those sorts of things. So do maybe do a little bit of a test run at the times that you might need to be into university, first thing, last thing, all those sorts of things. And one of the things that's really important, and I don't think I can ever stress this enough, is do ask questions. Always ask questions. You will not be the only person with that sort of thing in your head. There will be plenty of other people who are thinking it. You just might need to be the person that's brave enough to ask it. So don't be afraid to ask that question. And again, at the end, we'll come to those ways that you might be able to ask those questions. So moving on then to the next steps that you took, Brandon. So next thing was obviously getting started, those first weeks, those settling into student life, and potentially what does a typical week look like for you now? Maybe you could also briefly just talk about what it was like for you in first year as well.
So when I first just kind of got there, I was very nervous, very anxious because I didn't really know anybody. And I think once I started getting to know people, I just settled in straight away, and I just started to have fun with everything. My first week was definitely very daunting because I didn't really know too many people there, and I was just kind of thrown in the deep end in the way that I just met everyone straight away, like from first year all the way up to everyone I was doing masters, PGCEs, everything like that, and everyone was just so approachable and friendly, and they pretty much encouraged me to do pretty much anything and everything I could within the first week. A typical week, funnily enough, I actually did make a video on this on my YouTube channel, which is a great plug for myself. But a typical week for me has essentially been I'll go to a few workshops every now and then, singers platform, rock workshops. I will do one-to-one lessons with a singing teacher and a piano teacher, and I will do independent rehearsal throughout the most of it for ensemble, piano, my dissertation, and I have done a couple of essay based modules every now and then as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Brandon. That's really cool. What does a typical kind of week, or what did a typical week look like for you as a timetable? Sorry, I should say.
As a timetable. Okay, so when it comes to lectures and sessions, I would have up to 5 a week, in a way that would be I'll do one day I'll have a workshop, another day I'll have a singing lesson and a different lecture. But the next day was probably just a workshop on its own. But everything was very much spaced out, so I didn't have to be everywhere at once. I had the time to kind of breathe and relax, just to take a break in between if I needed to. If I needed to warm up between one and the other, I had the opportunity to.
Brilliant, thank you. And so with that in mind, do you have time, or did you have time to have a job alongside studying?
Yeah, absolutely. In my first and second year, I actually worked part-time at the McDonald's up by Sainsbury's, and I mean, the honest review of that was it was an experience. I did a lot of overnight shifts in that time, so I got to meet a lot of students in their best form possible. And I even did some morning shifts, especially in my second year, and I still managed to get a good pay out of it by doing 2-3 shifts a week, and still had enough time to do everything in uni as well.
Brilliant, that's cool. So that balance was still there, which is exactly what I was getting at. So that's cool. So that probably leads on to probably echo some of the things that we kind of get as concerns each year. So we set up a Facebook group each year. Undergraduates can join, and we do ask, what are your biggest concerns during a university? We get lots of different questions, we get lots of different kind of answers. Some of those are, can I balance kind of work life, balance it with study life, those sorts of things? How do I fund myself, which sometimes links back to the jobs? We get things about making friends, we get things about social life. So moving on to the next slide then, Brandon, that leads me on to, so what were your biggest concerns before coming to university, and how did they pan out?
Ooh, that's a great question. One of the biggest concerns I had was, am I gonna be overcrowded, or was going to be like completely overwhelmed by the whole university scene in a way, because back in college I knew I was one of the very few people who was doing what I did, and as soon as I came, like, would I instantly be overwhelmed by how many musicians there were, or how many people who I knew were going to be amazing? Obviously everyone was amazing, and like those kind of boxes were definitely checked. I think once I actually came to university, like, I instantly realized that everyone was in the same boat as me, and we all had that kind of worry of like, are we going to be good enough? Are we going to be like doing great with what we're doing, surrounded by other people and being compared to them? And I think the main reminder I gave myself a lot of the time was they picked me out because they saw something in me, and they saw the potential I had from my audition. So I've just kind of been working through that and been showing that potential through all 4 years, and here I am today.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brandon. That's really cool. That's really cool. Kind of nicely then links us onto one of the other concerns people have is that moving away, that setting themselves up in a different place, or ultimately starting in a different place, even if they are still living in the same area. So how was it for you moving away from home? How was it you making friends? Did you live in student accommodation? So the questions on the screen there, if you could give us your kind of take on those.
I was absolutely excited to move away from home. I was definitely nervous, but I was more so excited because I lived in like a really big family, and like I already kind of lived in like that reputation of what the family was like, all like over 10 years of that education. So I was excited to kind of move away and kind of make a name for myself. And I think when I moved away from home, like every sort of like anxiety and nerve to do with like being a fresh start, that didn't phase me one bit. But obviously, when that kind of thought kicked in, I did get a little bit scared at first, and then I just kind of realized I'm already like halfway through like what I'm doing in like the first semester, so I wasn't too worried about myself. I was in student accommodation in my first year. I was in Ifold, which was a catered and ensuite facility. Everyone there was honestly really nice and fun to just hang out with. And when it came to making like friends and just meeting new people, at first I was really shy and nervous, and like I just didn't know how to approach anybody. But I think one of the things that I just knew was great for me was everyone was going to approach each other, and like a lot of people did come to me eventually, and it was just really fun just to talk to them. And we always had opportunities just kind of be social with one another because there was always something going on.
Brilliant. Did you particularly do anything with the Students' Union? Did you join any clubs or societies that helped you make friends as well?
I was in the rowing society from my second year onwards, and I've been doing a lot with the LGBT society this year.
Excellent, excellent. So as we said previously, applicant groups are a really good way of kind of making friends, making connections before. And what you'll probably find is if you are already in those applicant groups, you've probably splintered off into your own different WhatsApp groups and bits and pieces as well. I think it was last week or the week before, one of the ambassadors on a previous webinar was talking about how he was an international student. He made lots of friends online before he came, and then when he got here, they were kind of at the window waving at him, and he felt like he knew people already. So that's the reason we set these groups up, which is really interesting. Linking into housing and linking into accommodation, Brandon, can you give us a bit of what was your experience of finding a house for your second or third year?
I would say like I already knew like a lot of people at that time, so when it came to finding a house, it was just talking to like a lot of people, just asking essentially what they were looking for and seeing if it matched up to my sort of like idea of like we wanted somewhere that was like really nice, really laid back and chilled. Like location wise, I preferred somewhere where I knew a lot of people were going to be. And like I think when everyone's started agreeing with each other, that's when like the plan I had like for my sort of house just fell like into place perfectly, and it was actually really easy to kind of get everything sorted.
Oh, good. That's brilliant. So linking or kind of going on from that as well, there is lots of support through the university to find houses for your second and third year. They will generally in most of the normal years, previous years have been a bit difficult, but we'll run a housing fair where you'll be able to meet different landlords that are part of of the university scheme, so we can say that the houses are accredited and also approved by us, so that you're actually getting everything that makes the house suitable. So that's one of the things that people always ask about. So something else that comes out of people worrying, one of the big concerns, I think the big words on the screen there are exams and essays. Everyone always goes, oh, exams. Some people might like them, and some people like to get that done in a real quick kind of succession. Other people prefer essays because they're kind of over a long period of time. You get a chance to work out them, go back to them, those sorts of things. Brandon, can you tell us a bit about what sort of assessments you've had in your particular area of music, and how you prepare for those, and how often do you have them?
So I do a variety of different kind of assessments. So I'll have some modules where it's just going to be just essays, and a lot of other modules, they are performance based. With the performance based ones, I would do like a set list of like songs I would just do back to back, or like with a little bit of conversation involved. And the way I prepare for them is just like listening to the songs and like just gauging how I would want to do it, as well as like thinking about the audience I'm performing for, and thinking about like how I want to present myself as I'm doing that as well. And these kind of performance assessments, they're pretty much once a year, like at the end of the year. Like I've got my dissertation, which is like a 45-minute recital. That's at the end of May, which I'm excited but also terrified for. But I know I am mostly prepared for that. With the essays, I just like I'll get given like a topic or a question. I do my research into it, use all the different resources I have at the library, especially, and like I would just kind of like write out a plan, write out like different paragraphs linking back to like a structure I've made. And I'd always like talk to the teachers like every now and then if I need feedback on it, and see how much I can like elevate what I've kind of got into something that's potentially better.
Brilliant, thank you. How often do you have these assessments? Do you get them in any particular pattern or time frame?
I'd say it mostly depends with the module itself, because I've had modules that have been lasted all year. Some of them have just been like for just a semester. So if any of them are just a semester, I would do a formative like before like the break into like the next sort of like part of that semester, and then I do a summative at the end of the semester. If it's something that's all year, I just kind of work through it consistently, and then I present everything at the end of the year.
Brilliant, thank you. So in terms of you talk about the kind of practice and the practical side of it, so recitals and bits and pieces, how do you find well, where do you practice? Do you use spaces on campus? Do you stand and annoy your housemates? What sort of things do you do?
With a lot of the practical side of things, I would definitely rehearse on campus. And like the conservatoire block has got so much space and so much facilities for us to really use. Like I would do a piano assessment, and like every single room has a piano inside, and I just find it's really helpful for me. And like sometimes I will do practice at home. Like I would like kind of pick and choose what songs to do where and when. Like if I know I've got housemates in, I'll choose like a sort of like more like quieter, soft-spoken song, so I'm not disrupting them too much. Like they already know I can sing and will often sing through the walls, but I'll just be polite to them at least, because they're not all musical. But any song that I know I need to kind of work on extensively, I will just take myself outside the house and go to a practice room and just work through them, really.
Brilliant, thanks, Brandon. That's really cool. Thank you. So, with all those sort of thoughts around support, it's kind of goes without saying that it's nice to highlight the other areas of support that there are here at the University of Chichester. So you will find that you'll get a massive amount of support from your lecturers. We obviously continually say that community feel and that small kind of nature of our classes is really important. And for that very reason, you do get to know your lecturers very well. You get to know your academics very well, and they are there to support you throughout your journey through university. There are also other kind of areas to academic skills, and that might be being taught how to formulate essays, how to use particular software. It could be any number of things that kind of comes under that umbrella of academic skills. You can organise group tutorials, you can organise one-to-ones with those academic skills advisors. So there's lots and lots of opportunity for that. We also have a chaplain here on the campus, or on both campuses rather, and she is available to kind of either meet one-to-one, she runs services, she will talk to anyone of any faith, and it can even be down to just being able to go and have a quiet kind of moment of contemplation with her as well. So she is very, very open to all those different things. We have our disability and dyslexia service. So for those more specific identified needs, there is lots of different support services around for that, and there are identified members of staff who can support you with those things. We have our student health service, and we have 2 dedicated nurses for that as well. So that can be accessed through our wellbeing team. We have our wonderful student money team. So one of those things is about learning to budget, learning when to kind of, can I afford to go out this week? Can I afford to use money for this? And also how to find other revenues and kind of funding, whether that's through a job, whether that's through bursaries, scholarships, those sorts of things as well. Our student money team are there to support you. We then also have our student wellbeing team, so they will be able to give you kind of advice either on a one-to-one, we have drop-ins, all those sorts of things. And then we have those things that come around to the mental health kind of agenda, and we also have a You in Mind mental health support, and we also have our You Talk counselling service, which can be booked as well. So there's a whole host of different support on offer. And not only looking at us, but if you are considering universities, do make sure you check out all those different things that they offer from a kind of pastoral point of view as well. So bringing us on then to a nice question for you, Brandon. So then what has been your favourite part of studying here so far?
That is a very great question, because there's so many things that I've really enjoyed doing here. I'll say one of the favourite parts about being here in particular was having that whole creative freedom to do pretty much anything I really wanted, in a way, within reason. Yeah, just having that creative freedom to kind of like take songs, make them my own, and also making like a program like for myself, like for my dissertation. My theme is essentially centered around myself, and like the way I've kind of done everything was to create like a storyline of like different things from growing up to like how it's shaping me into the person I am now, and everything I want to do in the future. And all the teachers here have just been so supportive of that, and have just been like, it's one of the greatest, or not one of the greatest ideas, but it's been a great idea that they've really heard that in a long time.
Brilliant, thank you. That's really cool. Another kind of nice fluffy question that I think would probably sum it up is, what would you say to someone who's considering studying music?
There is not enough people considering music, so please do it. And also, like, you want to do music because you enjoy it. Like, you have your reasons for studying music, and I would say Chichester is a great place to study it, because you're going to be thrown into like a great community who's going to be there for you the entire step of the way.
Brilliant, thank you. And one additional one that I'm going to add in, Brandon, is there, what do you plan to do with your degree once you finish? Is there anything that you particularly see yourself in the region? I realise I'm putting you on the spot now, but
Wow, that is a very great question. Funny enough, I actually was speaking to the people from the careers team today, so they've kind of helped me like kind of talk through ideas I did have. One of them was definitely seeing myself as being like a full-time performer, and like them helping me get gigs like later on in my like very early postgraduate life. Another idea that I might do like a postgraduate study, or just like do anything just surrounding music, just getting myself out there really.
brilliant, thanks, Brandon. Sorry, I realise I put you totally on the spot at that point. It's just always nice, just always nice
Absolutely.
to hear. And that also was nice, a nice name drop there for our career service as well. So that's probably something I should have mentioned, or support services as well, is that there is a career service that are there to support students all the way through university, whether that be about your course and your career options through your course, or whether that be about helping you find part-time work and bits and pieces as well whilst you're at university. So bringing me on to the last couple of slides that I've got. So there are a couple of different ways that you can get in touch with us. One of them being our UniBuddy platform. So we have a whole host of different students on our UniBuddy platform on the website at chi.ac.uk/chat. You can answer a couple of questions, and it will align you with a student that they fit, that it kind of matches you with based on subject matter and stuff like that. It's a really good chance to ask those questions that are probably a little bit more personal, a little bit more kind of everyday sorts of questions, or indeed you can ask them some of the more serious ones about how they get on with different aspects of their course. They are there to answer your questions. And there are also some staff members on that as well. We have got our Facebook group there as well. So if you haven't already joined that, then you can do. It will ask you a couple of questions just to check you are actually an applicant. But then there are lots and lots of different students on there. And as I said earlier, that's a good place to start joining up with some of the people who might be on your course, in your halls, all sorts of things like that, and then you can formulate kind of further chats and bits and pieces from that as well. Final thing to say is a couple of emails there for you to email us if you do have any further questions that you don't want to ask in an open forum. So there's a study here at chi.ac.uk, and there is also our admissions team at chi.ac.uk there as well, so you can ask them any questions. But it goes kind of leaves me at a nice point now to say, if you would like to ask any questions through the chat, then please feel free to drop them into that. We will be on the line for a few more minutes to answer any of those questions. And before we do take those, I'm just going to say a big thank you to Brandon for sharing his experiences today, but please do use the chat and ask us any questions. Oh, I can see someone's typing already, so that's good. Nice question. Someone else popping in a question there as well. That's good. So we've got a question here. As someone who's applied for the musical theatre with teaching course looking to go to the dance strand, does that also include a dissertation? Do you know the answer to that one, Brandon? I'm not entirely sure I can answer that without probably going away to ask anyone.
I feel like every musical theatre course will have a dissertation of its own. Like, not all of them are going to be written based. Some of them, like, you could do something that's written, you could do something where you kind of create something and you have other people perform it for you. You can present something yourself, or it could be something like mine where you do like a full sort of like program or like a recital sort of thing where you're the center of it.
Thanks, Brandon. That's cool. Yeah, so that probably is one of the answers you would get back, is that there are lots and lots of different ways that a dissertation can take place, and like Brandon said, it's not always a formative written down essay. It's lots of different things. I've had students on other courses saying they've done video. Was it a video essay, so a spoken essay? We've had people do media projects, so there's lots of different things. But tutors on those courses will be able to give you the kind of very specifics of that. So I've got another question coming up. So did you improve more, less, or around as much as you thought you would at singing by the end of your first year? Oh, that's quite an interesting one.
Ooh. I will definitely say I hugely improved. I will happily confess and say that when I first started, I would only sing in falsetto. So like I would do everything like in the fourth octave upwards. Yeah, as soon as I came in, I had a singing teacher who literally said, "You have a chest voice. How low can you go?" And they found I could literally go into like the top, or like the very bottom of the second octave, and they kind of realized that there was this whole sort of strain of like notes that I can really hear, and that's when the ideas started turning in my head, and that's when I felt more motivated, and that's when the improvement came in, because I knew I could do something different. And when people saw that and the ideas kind of like come into it, they saw how much I changed.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, that's the staff, isn't it? Like you say, working with you most of the conservatoire, if not all of the conservatoire, all of those staff that are working there are still practicing, still teaching, still singing, still all those different aspects that make up the courses that are there. So they're there to obviously, like you say, develop you and bring you on and find your development points as well, which is really good. Are there any other questions that people would like to ask? As I say, if you do want to pop them to us on any emails and through any other platforms, then please do. I see one more person typing, so we'll wait for that one. how much roughly is written to practical on a musical theatre with teaching course? The balance of so I'd say the balance of theory to practical on a musical theatre with teaching course. Brandon, I'm going to hand over to you on that one again. If you know it, if not, we might have to pass that one over and find out.
I'm not entirely sure, because but I would give a great guess to say that if you're doing musical theatre with teaching, you'll do a lot of practical that surrounds musical theatre, as they'll want to show off what you can do within musical theatre. You'll do a mix of musical theatre modules, you do a mix of teaching modules, and I would probably say you'll do a couple written, but a lot of it will be very practical.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brandon. What I'm going to say as well is if you do want to get a full answer to that, what I would recommend is you email our admissions team, who will be able to answer those sorts of questions. Very, very specific ones like that will need kind of an answer from potentially a course tutor. So don't be afraid to email us and we can find that out for you. I see someone else typing. So how is the musical performance course assessed, and are there any written assessments as well?
Okay, so with musical performance assessments, you will, for anything performance based, you'll pretty much present yourself in front of the assessors and the camera, and like if you're doing something that's like 20-25 minutes, you'll pick out your own sort of like repertoire to kind of present in front of them. You can do like that sort of time slot any way you like. Let's say if it's like you do like 5 songs and you'll have the time in between to kind of talk about each song. You get to write out program notes for them, and the program notes aren't actually going to be assessed in them either. And anything that is written, you'll get given like a sort of like, if it's like a written module, you'll get a like sort of topic of a question relating back to like the module itself. You pretty much write about that, write answers, write down your own sort of like interpretation, write down reflection, and like you kind of hand that into it to like if you want feedback. And then we have like a turn it in system on our Moodle page where you just turn that in, and then that way our teachers kind of can see that and then mark it and hand it back to you.
Brilliant, thanks, Brandon. Hopefully that's answered that question. If there aren't any more questions, I think we will kind of leave it at that point. Megan has popped in the chat there the chi.ac.uk/courses, which will take you to specific course information as well. And it will also give you, for most of our academics, it will also give you contact details for them as well, should you want to ask anything. So please feel free to. I'm going to leave it there and say a massive thank you again to Brandon, and kind of leave us to sign off here. I'm just checking there's one person still typing.